am going to regret that so much later. Hey everyone, it's Hailey, and today I'm going to be doing my fall 2017 reading guide. So this background looked so much cuter in my mind than it actually ended up being in person, so we're just gonna roll with it and pretend that it looks cute and not really dumb. But I have officially been doing these seasonal reading guides for a year now, which I'm very excited about because I love doing them, and apparently you guys like them too, because I was really surprised a lot of you guys were asking when this fall reading guide was going to come, and now the wait is over, although you did have to wait longer than usual because I'm filming this and it is supposed to be up in an hour, so it's going to be up quite late, and I apologize for that. So since I'm such a mood reader, I really like to read different things in different seasons, and I started doing these reading guides a year ago, so I'm not going to be repeating any of the books that I mentioned in last year's fall reading guide, so if you wanted to go and check that out, I will link it down below for you guys. So just like most other people on the internet, I love fall. It is my absolute favorite season. I just love the idea of the comfiness of fall and watching the leaves just fall off the trees and sitting there with a nice hot chocolate or hot cup of coffee in a blanket, just a fuzzy blanket with your fuzzy reading socks. There is just nothing quite like the fall sweater weather. It is honestly the perfect reading weather. Unlike most other people on the internet though, I hate Halloween. It is my least favorite holiday. I don't like it at all. I'm very easily startled, so I don't like the whole scary thing. So if you're looking for like thrillers and stuff on this list, you're not gonna get any. However, I do have a few Halloween reads that I feel like fit kind of the Halloween spirit, if that makes any sense. So I have quite a few of those on here. And I also have done a Halloween recommended read, so I will link that down below for you guys if you just want a plethora of options for books to read this fall season. While I don't like Halloween, I do kind of like to read Halloween-y reads near Halloween time, so this is really the only time of year where you will catch me reading mysteries and thrillers. But other than that, normally during the fall, I like to read anything that's really dark. So dark fantasies, dark historical fictions, really just historical fiction in general, I love for fall and winter. This list happens to be a lot of fantasy, but they're all very dark and mysterious, kind of atmospheric fantasies, which I think are perfect for the fall season. So without further ado, here are my top 9 recommended reads for the fall season. So this list is in no particular order, but I'm just going to start with the two kind of odd ones out. So the first one is Scythe by Neil Shusterman. This is kind of a sci-fi story, which is why it's really an oddball on this list, but it is honestly perfect for the fall season. So this is kind of dystopia, kind of utopia. Basically, it is set in a version of our world where there is no disease, no one dies naturally. So obviously there needs to be a means to keep the population down so then it won't go out of control. And the means for that is what they call scythes. So these scythes, which is a really hard word to say, that is quite the tongue twister, but they are charged with going and killing people in order to keep the population in check. So whether they like it or not, the two main characters of this book, Citra and Rowan, end up becoming Scythe's apprentices, which is basically Scythes in training. This is perfect for fall because it is so dark. It centers around death. That is like the central topic of it, especially killing, which I think is just perfect. It's kind of like a sci-fi version of a slasher film, if that makes sense. And like I said, I'm not super into that stuff, so that could be a very inaccurate description, but it's kind of what I would picture a slasher film being like if it were kind of like a sci-fi low-key version of it. Did that make sense? I don't know. It's super twisted and definitely makes you think, and is perfect to read this season. Next is the other odd one out on this list, and that is A Million Junes by Emily Henry. This is a very dark magical realism, and it's basically like Romeo and Juliet except with ghosts added to it, but like really weird ghosts. You can't even really call them ghosts. It's so hard to describe this book, honestly. But it follows our main character, June O'Donnell, also known as Jack, and she has always lived her life abiding by this golden rule that her father has instilled in her of never hanging out with the Angert family. So of course she ends up breaking that golden rule and hanging out with Saul Angert, and they develop this relationship, and in time with their relationship, some really inexplicable things start happening, and Jack is just very confused by it all and left to try and figure it out. I honestly feel like this is just the perfect book to sit on a picnic blanket under a tree, the leaves falling all over you, and it's just like this chilly day and you're sitting here reading this book. It sounds amazing, and it is perfect for that because it's such a weird and strange story, but it's very immersive. You kind of have to allow yourself a certain suspension of disbelief and kind of let yourself go into this story and just take it for what it is, one page at a time and really one word at a time. It's so beautifully written, very whimsical, very atmospheric, but very dark. I don't want to say too much about it honestly because I feel like with most magical realisms it's best to go into it not knowing a lot, but just know Romeo and Juliet, ghosts, weird things like that sort of stuff happening, not even real ghosts. It's weird, but amazing. So now I have a whole pile of dark fantasies for you, so let's dive into them. So first of the dark fantasies is Carvalho by Stephanie Garber. This book got a ton of hype when it came out in January for good reason. It was so great. I enjoyed it immensely, and I actually did a whole review and discussion for it, so I will link that down below for you guys. So once you do read this, then you can go and check that out. Even if you're unsure, the first part of that video is spoiler free, so it can kind of elaborate a little bit more on what I'm saying now and help you make that decision for whether you want to read this book or not. But this book follows two sisters, Scarlett and Tella, and they have always lived under the kind of iron fist of their father, who's very abusive and just a very cruel man. So as kind of a mental escape, Scarlett has always dreamed of going to Carvalho, which is this kind of performance where the audience participates in it. It's kind of circus-esque in the fact that it's really weird, strange, sort of whimsical things are going on. So Scarlett has continued to dream of going there and always waited for her invitation to show up when finally it actually does. This is another book where I feel like you need to go into it not really knowing a lot, so then you won't have too many expectations for it, but it's perfect for this season because the world of Carvalho is so twisted, so dark, and it keeps you questioning the entire time. This is really kind of a mystery novel as much as it is fantasy because you're following along with the characters and trying to piece together what's going on in this world where fantasy and reality are kind of blurring together, and you're trying to make sense of it while they're trying to make sense of it, and it is just twisted. So if you're looking for a really immersive fall read, then I think this would be a great one for you. Next up is Daughter of the Burning City by Amanda Foody. I'm actually kind of cheating putting this on my list because I haven't actually finished it yet, but I was listening to the audiobook and then I opted to put it down in favor of reading it physically because I felt like it was just one that I would really enjoy if I was physically reading it, and I wanted to save it for around October, so this will also be in my fall reading list video when that comes out. But from what I read of it, which was quite a bit, I can tell you that this is honestly perfect for fall. So this book follows Serena, and Serena has lived in this traveling city circus called Gomorrah her entire life. So Serena is actually an illusion worker, meaning she has the ability to create these different illusions, and they are so lifelike that they actually are what make up her family. But things get really twisted when someone starts murdering her illusions. This is so dark, and it's really a murder mystery that takes place in this creepy circus. It's just so cool and honestly perfect for around Halloween, so I can't wait to dive more into it closer to Halloween. But I think you guys would really like it, and like I said, I did read enough to be able to feel confident including it on this list, but I didn't want to feel like I was lying to you guys saying that I read the whole thing when I haven't yet. So just know I have read quite a bit of it, but I'm not quite done yet, but I think it is perfect for fall, which is why I had to include it on this list. Next up is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This book, honestly, I feel like I talk about it so much, but I also don't talk about it enough because I loved it so much. The first book is amazing. The second book is even better. It blew me out of the water. One of my favorite, if not my favorite sequel that I have ever read. If you guys are familiar with Leigh Bardugo at all, you may know her from her Grisha universe, which is from her Grisha trilogy, which starts with Shadow and Bone. That was such a long extended sentence. But this follows completely different characters. It follows this group of misfits, really just the sweetest people in the world, and they're so great. I love the characters. But this book follows them as they go on this crazy heist. This is great for fall because it's so suspenseful and once again kind of keeps you guessing, and you never really know if they're going to be successful, what's going to happen. It just keeps you like, what is happening, on the edge of your seat. So I actually think I'm going to reread this soon because I want to do a whole review and discussion for it, but I did do a whole review and discussion for Crooked Kingdom, which I will link down below for you guys. And that's the second book in this duology, in case you didn't know that. Next up is Queen of Blood by Sarah Beth Durst. This is a book that I feel like I don't really talk about enough, and it's one that I want to reread soon because the sequel came out, but when I did read it, it really surprised me with how much I enjoyed it. So this takes place in this fantasy world where basically everything has a spirit. All of the natural things have a spirit. So the streams, the rivers, the trees, the branches, the leaves, like all that stuff, everything has this spirit to it. But these spirits are really powerful and they're also kind of vengeful, so they want to rid the world of humans. And the only person who can keep the spirits at bay and keep them from destroying everything is the queen. I feel like this is perfect for fall because one, the world is like a tree, so everything is on a branch. It's super cool. So like trees, I automatically think of fall. It's just a very earthy fantasy, kind of down to earth, which I just feel like fall is the most earthy of all the seasons. Does that make any sense? Also, look at this cover. It's just perfect for fall. This book also features a magic academy, which I feel like is perfect for fall because fall is back to school season. So like, this seems like I am totally BSing and grasping at straws here, but it's hard for me to describe how much this book just feels like the perfect book for this season. So I just recommend you give it a chance, give it a go, and I don't think you will be disappointed. Next up is This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. Really, any of Victoria Schwab's books are kind of perfect for the fall season, but this one especially because monsters. So this book follows Kate and August, and they live in this city that has been overrun by monsters. And the two of them are very similar, but also very different. They're kind of two opposite sides of the same coin. I think that's how that saying goes. I don't really know. I've never used it. But Kate is a human who really wants to be a monster of sorts. She wants to be as ruthless as her father, who guarantees people safety in a city where they don't really feel safe, and safety is something that's hard to come by, but he guarantees it at a very high cost. August, on the other hand, is actually a monster. He has the ability to steal someone's soul with a single song, but he longs to be human and good-hearted like his father was. So when the paths of these two characters cross, you really see the potential that each has there to become the other. Does that make sense? I don't know. Oh, I have to do my nails so badly. But they both have this choice between becoming allies, becoming enemies, and becoming villains or heroes. This book is perfect for fall and Halloween because it's monsters, but in a very unique light. Monsters aren't really something that I feel like you see a lot in YA, but this is monsters done very well. It's a super cool, dark urban fantasy that I feel like is perfect for around Halloween. Next up is Three Dark Crowns by Kendara Blake. This is such a twisted, dark fantasy. It's honestly ridiculous, and oh my goodness, I can't wait for the sequel because I feel like this book was good, but it's kind of setting up more for the sequel, and the sequel comes out in a week, and I'm so excited for it. So this book follows a set of triplets who are all the heir to the throne, but only one of them can actually be queen. So we have Arsinoe, the naturalist, Mirabella, the elementalist, and Catherine, the poisoner. So these sisters have been separate their entire lives, but on the night of their 16th birthday, they finally are going to meet because they have to fight to the death, because the last one of them standing is the one who will get the crown. Like, what the heck? How dark and twisted is that synopsis? You had to kill your sister? That's ridiculous to me. So I think you might agree that this is perfect for fall because it's so dark, twisted, suspenseful, full of vengeance, and just, oh my god, it's amazing. This is honestly a book that I felt like I didn't like at first, but the more I think about it, the more I'm like, that was so good. And finally is Long May She Reign by Rhiannon Thomas. So this book follows Freya, and Freya was 23rd in line to the throne, so she never really expected to become queen, never trained for it, none of that, but everyone in the court ends up getting poisoned, including the king and queen, so she ends up having to take the throne. So coming straight off of an absolutely horrific massacre, Freya has to try and learn the ropes of court life, which she is very ill prepared for, and she has to try and learn how to rule a freaking kingdom. And all of this with the kind of looming ghosts of the old court following her every move. So I don't think this book is so much a fantasy as much as it is a mystery. It's really this murder mystery that you are following as Freya is trying to figure out what the heck happened, how all of these people died, and why she, 23rd in line of all people, ended up on the throne. It's really cool. It kept me guessing. There were times where I thought I knew what was going on and then I'd be kind of thrown for a loop. So it was just a really great story to try and kind of follow along and see what was going on and see if you could figure it out before the main character did. And I will be doing a BiblioBabble for this one very soon, so stay tuned for that. So that is all for my fall 2017 reading guide. I hope that this helped you add some books to your fall reading list. And if you wanted some more fall recommendations, like I said, I will link my Halloween recommended reads down below, as well as the fall reading guide that I did last year, because those recommendations still stand. And if you wanted more book recommendations in general, then don't forget to subscribe. I put out new reading vlogs every Monday, new main videos every Tuesday and Thursday, and sometimes bonus reviews or unboxings on Wednesdays. And if you wanted to keep up with what I'm doing, you can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter is @HailesInBookland, or on Instagram, my Instagram is @HaileyInBookland, but all that stuff is down below for you. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!